This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for your website building needs. Here we are, one race to go and Hamilton and Verstappen are level on points. So with one race to go, who wins the title? Let's have a look. My name's Andy and this is Behind the Drive. It's been an unbelievable season all round, and we are just days away from finally finding out who is going to be the 2021 World Champion. Following that chaotic and confusing race in Saudi Arabia, the pair are level on points, and with just 55 laps to go in this championship, it could be anyone's victory come Sunday. This video will take a look at our two title contenders and who could be in the best position for that final Abu Dhabi race. And if you enjoy this preview video, please leave it a like, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. 369.5 points, Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has performed incredibly well all season, with the Dutch driver finishing first or second at 17 of the 21 races so far in 2021. And at those other 4 races, he's either failed to finish due to an incident or was driving a damaged car that wasn't capable of competing at the front. 9 of those 17 podiums have been race victories, so it must be said that Verstappen has well and truly been on it this season. He's shown that he's capable of maintaining the consistency required to compete for a world championship, and that, if given the right car, he can ensure that he's the one to come out on top. His performances have been some of the best this season, and his consistency has been unparalleled. At every single race, you can be sure that Verstappen will be at the front in qualifying and incredibly aggressive in his racing approach. But this is where he ends up in a bit of hot water. Verstappen is a no-yield approach, something that hasn't changed all season, and he's certainly pushed it over the limit on a number of occasions in 2021. I've spoken about these instances before, so the more recent examples include the Turn 4 incident in Brazil, where Hamilton had a pace advantage and was chasing Verstappen down. The Mercedes driver went for a move around the outside, but Verstappen, braking later than he had done previously, went straight through the corner, failing to make the turn and crowding Hamilton off the track in the process. It was a tough move and one that the stewards immediately noted. There are examples of this type of move being penalised before this season, thinking back to Norris and Perez in Austria for example, where the McLaren driver ended up forcing the Red Bull into the gravel trap, as the Mexican driver went for a move around the outside. But on this occasion in Brazil, there was no investigation and the incident went without punishment. Now of course Hamilton did find a way past in Brazil in the end, but Mercedes were rightfully aggrieved by the fact that they didn't even see an investigation and that it was just noted. And despite raising a right of review request at the next race in Qatar, the stewards determined it not to require further investigation. This led to a huge amount of confusion amongst the drivers. You had Michael Massey telling the drivers in the driver briefing that they could expect to be penalised if they pulled a similar move, and following that, most of the drivers said they were confused. But throughout this, Verstappen was the one saying that he wasn't confused at all, and that the rules were very clear. But before we take another look at Verstappen's performance in Saudi Arabia, I want to talk to you about my experience with Squarespace, the all-in-one platform for your domain and website building needs. Website building doesn't need to be difficult. I'm not a particularly creative person, as you can probably tell from my limited editing skills, but the customizable templates on Squarespace are so easy to use and modify to your website's needs, be that a blog, a portfolio, or even an online store. And it doesn't take long before you have a website that looks great on both desktop and mobile. So if you're building a website, then make sure to check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/behindthedrive to save 10% on your first website or domain. The link will be in the top line of the description, so make sure to go and take a look and see how easy it is for yourself. In Saudi Arabia, we saw one of the most feisty contests all season, with a fortunate red flag for Verstappen leaving him able to gain track position and change his tyres through the red flag period, whilst Bottas and Hamilton only benefited from the safety car period. Verstappen lost out at the restart though, with Hamilton getting a better launch and clearly being in a better position into turn 1. On this occasion, Verstappen braked too late and ended up clearly off the circuit and simply drove immediately back onto the track in front of the Mercedes in what looked like quite a clumsy move. This one was a slam dunk penalty, and that wasn't the last of it. At a later restart, after Verstappen had been forced to concede that position back to Hamilton, we saw what the Dutchman is capable of, getting a brilliant launch on the softer, medium compound tyre to then make an opportunistic move down the inside after Hamilton and Ocon had left the door wide open. It was an excellent double overtake and one that, had the positions remained the same, would have been an awesome way to win it. But it was later in the race on lap 36 where Hamilton got the toe into turn 1. And once again, in a similar incident to the one in Brazil, he found himself on the outside. Verstappen did it again, braking late into turn 1 to force Hamilton off the circuit, and on this occasion the Mercedes driver braked heavily, taking himself back onto the track while Verstappen headed through the corner. It was a move which, in my view, was predominantly Verstappen's fault, with the Red Bull driver clearly not braking early enough to make the corner, and subsequently putting both drivers at risk, and the FIA agreed, with the Dutchman being asked to concede the position back to Hamilton and a 5-second penalty applied to his race time. But this is where it gets interesting. Verstappen said in the post-race press conference that the rules weren't clear, and that this incident was similar to that of Brazil turn 4, but I suppose, if what was said in the driver's briefing in Qatar is to be believed, it makes sense, and Verstappen should have expected the penalty. In the end, Verstappen lost out in Saudi Arabia, and we'll come on to that when looking at Hamilton's perspective, but I think that what this shows is that even when Max doesn't have the strongest car, he will be there fighting tooth and nail for every position. He simply doesn't yield, and that does put drivers in dangerous positions, so when it comes to Abu Dhabi you can expect a similar ruthless approach from the Red Bull driver. 369.5 points, Lewis Hamilton. So then we have Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion bidding for his chance to take a step ahead of Michael Schumacher in that record. And Hamilton has done well this season, with 8 wins and 7 second places. But it's been a season with a number of uncharacteristic mistakes, particularly in the first half of the year, with a trip into the gravel at Imola, a weekend off the pace in Monaco, and a significant error in Azerbaijan. But what we've seen in the last 3 races in Brazil, Qatar and Saudi Arabia is a world champion that refuses to give up, even when the odds are not in his favour. Hamilton looked down and out after the races in Mexico and the USA, where the Red Bull team had a dominant race car and left him unable to compete with Verstappen. But Brazil was a turning point in this championship. A disqualification for a damaged rear wing put him at the back of the order for the sprint race. But a new engine saw him recover to 5th in that event, and a subsequent 5-place grid drop saw him once again recover from 10th to the win in that race in Sao Paulo. It was a monumental drive, and one that showed that he had a car which was indeed capable of winning races again, and beating the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Qatar followed, and once again it was a dominant display, with the older combustion engine in the back of his car that he'd taken all the way back in Turkey. He was still able to hold a commanding lead, something that was supported by the fact that Verstappen had received a grid drop. And then in Saudi Arabia, Hamilton got a bit of luck, allowing him to take pole position despite not being the quickest, with Verstappen's critical mistake leaving him P3 on the grid and the Mercedes driver on pole. It was particularly lucky given how important track position is at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. And of course what unfolded was a crazy race, and Hamilton ultimately got lucky again in my view. And that isn't taking away from the fact that he was clearly the fastest driver on that day through the race, and that he fought hard for the win, but he was lucky to not have been forced to retire from the race completely, with the driver almost hitting the Red Bull as he came back onto the circuit at the first restart, surviving the sandwich that was happening at the second restart with Ocon and Verstappen, and then of course you have the moment where Verstappen slowed down on the straight and Hamilton hit the back of the Red Bull, leaving him with front wing end plate damage. Despite all of those events, Hamilton ended up on the top step, and even achieving the fastest lap of the race on aging tyres without a front wing end plate, damage which was reportedly costing him 0.4 seconds per lap. So Hamilton lived to fight another day, and it's interesting to see how his approach has changed through the year. Early on at the first chicane at Imola and turn 1 in Spain for example, Hamilton yielded to Verstappen, ensuring he survived in those races. Once it came to Silverstone, Hamilton didn't yield through Copse, and then once again at Monza it was similar as Hamilton remained aggressive in the fight against Verstappen. More recently though, Hamilton has needed to win the races to stay in the championship, and as such he's been yielding to Verstappen's defensive driving on a number of occasions, driving off the track in Brazil and allowing the Dutchman to jump over the curbs into turn 1 at Saudi Arabia. It's been an interesting change in the way that he races with Verstappen, and it's been working for the British driver in these last few races at least. Yas Marina Circuit, Abu Dhabi. The race in Abu Dhabi in 2020 was won by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, but if there's anything that we know from this season, it's the fact that it's difficult to identify which team will have the strongest car at any given circuit. There is, of course, one of the longest straights on the calendar at Abu Dhabi, but after seeing the speed of the cars in Jeddah, it's anyone's guess as to which of these drivers will come out on top in terms of straight line speed. The difference between Hamilton and Verstappen in the qualifying speed trap was just 0.8 km per hour. so far less than we've seen in Qatar and Brazil. Mercedes have been saying that their combustion engine has been deteriorating at a faster rate than they would have wanted. So was this a sign in Saudi Arabia that the engine's starting to drop off? If that's the case, then you would have to believe it's advantage Red Bull. But Formula 1 is often a sport where momentum is crucial, and Hamilton comes into this last weekend with 3 wins on the bounce. No driver has achieved 4 in a row in 2021, but that could easily change given the pace of that Mercedes. Over the course of the 2021 season, Verstappen and Hamilton have been incredibly closely matched. I saw a post from ESPN before the start of the Saudi Arabia race weekend which showed that if you put the races where both drivers have finished back to back, they will have covered 3,000 miles, and it would have been Verstappen finishing ahead by just 28.62 seconds. Given the result in Saudi Arabia, with Hamilton ending up winning by 21.8 seconds following the Red Bull driver's post-race penalties, it means that it would just be a 6.795 second difference over a distance that's more than the width of the USA. A truly amazing statistic. You then have the fact that whilst the 2 drivers are level on points, this championship could easily end with one or both drivers in the barrier. A situation which would see Verstappen come out as the world champion. This is a scenario which Formula 1 has seen on occasions before, and one that I'm sure we're all hoping doesn't happen on Sunday. The Abu Dhabi track has also been reprofiled. They finally removed that awful chicane before the long back straight, and they've modified the 90-degree corners and turned it into a swooping left-hander turn 9, which could see some action, given it's at the end of the second straight. Hopefully, as with the intentions of the changes, these turns make it easier to overtake. The chicane being removed should hopefully improve that section, but it's anyone's guess as to which team will be quicker. All I know for sure is that you won't want to miss this race in Abu Dhabi. Who's your winner? Let me know in the comments. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and thanks to you for watching.